We have Michael and Samantha with me here. They spent over 28 years building one of the top 5 largest ATM networks. They're both founders, entrepreneurs, probably much like yourself. They grew it up to an 8-figure valuation, had their exit last year, went through the negotiation of that exit, the process of deciding, should we sell, should we not sell, et cetera. And now they're focused on investing their own wealth, reducing tax liabilities where possible, helping others achieve financial independence, and exploring how to do both passive investing while using their entrepreneurial driven brains, just like a lot of us here in the room. So I think a lot of you are going to connect with the comments they share here today. And would either of you like to add something for an introduction on who you are?
You did a pretty good job there, Richard. I definitely want to thank you. In even thinking about what we did with our ATM company, I think about what you've done here with Family Office Club, and it's about getting the best of the best together and finding ways to work together, and that's what we did. I think that was a big key for us, as I've seen it for you as well.
Sure. Great. Michael?
I think she covered it. We just like to partner with people that are doing a great job in their specific niche and see if we can help grow that by pouring a little gas on it.
Sure, and I know it wasn't one of the planned questions, but I remember when we went golfing last year in a 97-degree, nice weather in Scottsdale for 4 hours. You mentioned, Samantha, that one of the things that helped you guys grow faster is thinking differently about the ATM business. I think you structured your acquisition of deals differently, or you thought about it more of a wholesale and mass distribution model, if I remember right. Can you comment on that and just how that played into your success?
Yeah, you have to remember we started in the ATM industry when it started. So as soon as it didn't have to be bank owned. So we actually watched the entire bell curve of the industry. But when we first started, everybody was really doing retail sales, even for people that wanted to own their own portfolio of ATM machines. So we were looking for a wholesale environment for ourselves and figured somebody else was probably looking for the same thing. And I really came up with, Mike and I were talking about, is this something we want to do? It was our side hustle. And I said, look, if we can come up with a program where we're not consistently renegotiating somebody else's portion, like they always know what they're going to make, and it's a win-win-win, win for us, win for the client, and win for the client's client, that's a company or an industry I could get behind. And I said, if we can do that, I'm in. If we can't do that, I'm out. And we always stayed true to that.
Got it. Okay. Great. Thank you. And so, Michael, what made the difference in your mind being able to scale to 8 figures while many people in that business maybe failed to scale to 7 figures? What would you say was a difference maker?
I think the difference maker for me was it was a brand new industry and we wanted to serve everybody, as many people as we can. So the more people we served, and let me back up a second. If we serve our client, which is the ATM owner, and then serve the card holder, we will get served later. And I think in that business, continuing to serve others actually helped us grow a lot faster, where there were so many people that were always looking to be served rather than serving.
Right, right. And Samantha, what else would you say you guys did besides thinking about it differently from a wholesale perspective, et cetera, that got you to the 8 figures?
Oh, the actual purchase?
Yeah, or like what led to you being able to scale to that level, which was different maybe?
I think we looked at what other people might have considered our competitors in the industry. We looked at them as potential partners. So there were really ways, hey, why don't we all combine together? And we kind of created a buying group, and then we could go to somebody else and negotiate harder. And then it was everybody won. And we just always figured there was enough of the pie to go around. If you try to keep it all to yourself and think of it as, you know, you're the only one that this is going to serve, or this is the only way to do it, or this is the way it's always been done, which there was no roadmap for us. So maybe that helped. But if you really think about the pie is big, the world is abundant. There's plenty for everybody. Just find ways to work together that work well with the right partners, then it works.
Awesome. Yeah, Brenton from Waltz Construction was just saying they look for co-GP deals. And tomorrow we have a exponential investor panel, which is the heads of other investor clubs at our investor club event. It's the exact same thinking that we see that in some of the most successful people we've ever met. They think differently about how to get mass distribution, how to do partnerships, and not see people as competitors, you know, like a scarcity mindset. So that's great. And then Samantha, for the exit, I know you led a lot of the negotiation and helped structure it. what did you learn the hard way? What was amazing, and you would do it the exact same again if you had to go through it again? Because I'm sure there's some people here in the room that are trying to figure out, like we heard on the last panel, should I exit now? Should I wait till interest rates go down a little bit more, et cetera? What did you learn during the exit?
One of them is you need to know your own outcome. Like, what is it you're looking for? Every few years we would think like, oh, do we want to sell? Do we want to sell part? Do we want to sell all? And really it came down to like, what's the outcome you're looking for, and how can you do it? I keep joking that I want to write a book, Negotiate Like a Girl, because the ATM industry is full of men. And so ultimately when it came down to it, I will tell you what I really did that changed the price is we kind of talked about selling over the years. I'd reached out to some people in the industry. It was just sort of a soft float. And then eventually we said, like, okay, now we're ready to sell. So I walked up to one potential buyer and I said, hey, look, I know we've kind of talked about it in the past. We're ready. We want to sell, and I want to give you first look. And the guy was like, thank you. That's totally awesome. I really appreciate it. That went a long way to, creating a good relationship. And then I walked over to the other guy and said the same thing.
Right.
And it took a while for everybody to kind of come to the table. So I was like, hey, how's that going? Where are we at with that? And, eventually, oh, well, here, and they're floating out low numbers. And I was like, yeah, well, you kind of waited. So, between then and now, I've floated it out to a couple other people, and then I kept them both in play.
Right.
And that was the huge strategy. If you have one buyer, you really don't have one. Maybe people would lie and say they had one if they didn't. That's not a game I wanted to play. I feel like that's bad karma. But keeping them both in play and knowing how to sell my company to each one of them when the outcome for each of them was different if they purchased me.
There's a lot of different insights there. And so one is to plant seeds early. So by the time you actually do want to sell, they already know you, trust you, hopefully like you, maybe have even started some light due diligence on who you are and seen you at some events, and you can follow up with them when you're in town. But then also, if you go to someone first, use that and tell them, hey, we're coming to you first. And when you go to the next person, say, you're one of the first 2 people we're coming to out of 50 that we could have. And I guess play those cards. And, when you're an investor acquiring something, you want to be the only one at the table. When you're selling something, you want an auction and get maximum price is generally right. So, Michael, I've heard a saying that all of my wealthy friends sold too early. Basically, like the only way you get wealthy is have some sort of exit, and you could always hold on to something longer. So for you, what made you confident that it was the time to sell?
We had operated the business for over 25 years. We had 401ks, we had cash benefit plan, we had a ton of money in savings, so we could actually retire just based on the money that we had put away over the years. So we figured at that point in time when we were going to sell, whatever we sold for would be icing on the cake. So for me, it actually, I sort of didn't want to sell at the time, but it actually ended up being the exact right time to sell. But I think what made it easier for me to swallow is we had already put enough money away in investments, and the investments were creating enough passive income to cover our lifestyle, so we didn't have to worry about what the company actually sold for. So that I think that even helped in the negotiations, is we just really didn't care.
Right.
Well, and can I add to that? Because we saw the entire bell curve of the industry, it had actually gone through mergers and acquisitions about 3 times. It was on really its 4th round. There were like 3 huge ATM companies, several mid-size. We were at the top of the mid-size, and all these little guys, which most of them were our clients. And I was like, if we miss this next round of M&A, we might not have a buyer. And now is the time to go, because now we're selling to our strengths. So I played, if we were the 6th largest, I played number 4 and 5 against each other and let them battle it out.
Sure. Yeah, it makes sense. Michael and Samantha have both spoken at a couple of our mastermind events, which we host about a dozen times a year. And at one of them, Michael, I remember you saying that one of your strategies is that when you think of someone who might be a good JV partner or to work with them, you say, hey, Sarah, I thought about you. Here's a little personalized video you record on your iPhone while walking, shoot it over to them. It's just like a 1 to 2 minute video. And that works super well for engaging people that maybe haven't talked to for a while. Any other strategies like that? Because I know both of you network a lot and have a powerful network. Any other tips for networking with other family offices?
I think creating the relationship and going deep with that person, so then you actually know who they are, what they're looking for, what their investment strategy is, so then I know what to bring to them when I have an investment and I'm looking to raise capital. so many times you will be in a room like this and everybody's shoving their deal at you. I call it being pitch slapped. And if that didn't happen 20 times last night, it happened 30. And nobody even knew what my name was. So, and I'm wondering why they feel they can't raise capital. I know why they can't raise the capital, but they don't want to listen to why what works. And I think getting to know somebody, we have a room here of like 200 or 300 people, and if I meet 5 people and we get to go deep, that's 5 people that are on my bench that when I need something, I can reach out, and they may or may not come alongside me because we actually had a real conversation.
Right. Yeah, I think everyone's been pitch slapped a few times when they went to any event, and that's the opposite of what I recommended during my opening statement today. And I know one thing that Samantha and Michael both really good at most events, I see them up front, being attentive, paying attention, making eye contact with the speaker, maybe asking a smart question, and there's some of the more successful people in the whole room. And that stands out to me just after hosting the events over the years. But Samantha, what do you think is about your mindset, mental models that led to you being successful in the business? Maybe how you think about challenges, problems, about growth, et cetera.
Yeah, we always tried to set up, we just called it the win-win-win strategy. So everybody in the chain has to win. So, and everybody's motivated by something. So learning how to properly motivate somebody and set it up. So if you negotiate so hard with a vendor that they don't make anything, when you call them, they will not pick up the phone. So like that's not a good strategy. Everybody needs something out of the deal, and we're all business people trying to, employ people and make things work. So that was a big one. Another one is I employed the PETA principle, the pain in the ass principle, and that is if something was a total pain, Mike might actually fix the immediate problem, and then I was like, what created the problem? How do I fix the thing that created the problem to begin with? And when we sold, so we ended up selling to a company almost our size, so they effectively doubled. They had 75 people on staff, and we had 4. I mean, so by taking the PETA principle, you're like one little microscopic thing, changing that, it's not really going to change anything. Well, over X amount of years and X amount of processes, it really does change things dramatically. So don't overlook the small things and think that they don't matter. If you have a broken ship and you pour gas on it with a bunch of clients, now you have a bunch of clients on a broken ship, and you don't want that. So fixing it along the way was definitely key. And that is really the whole constant and never-ending improvement principle that we used with everything. It was like, how can we do it better? This sucks. If it sucks for us, it sucks for somebody else. What can we do to fix it? I mean, there are things that are complete industry standards now that came out of my head, and you're just like, this is such a pain. How can I not do that? And calling people and saying, hey, do you have the same problem? What can we do about it? How do you handle it? And that created a lot of our efficiencies as well.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, 4 employees versus 75. I mean, any founder can relate to the difference that would make, right? There's a saying that Joe Polish taught me that instead of the squeaky wheel gets the oil, maybe the squeaky wheel gets replaced, and then there's no longer that squeaky wheel in your system, right?
Especially with AI.
Yeah, exactly. So Michael, if somebody's growing right now and they're in the audience and they're making progress, but they're moving slowly, they feel like they're not growing enough, and it's going to take them forever to meet their goals, what would you encourage them to do or coach them to do as an entrepreneur that's had an exit?
I'd coach them to find somebody that's been there, done that can go faster and help them scale better, because it's not what it costs to bring that person in, it's the lost opportunity cost for not getting there faster. Because you may miss the boat and miss some of the upside that you can actually create by actually putting the right people in the right seats at the right time.
Got it. And then quick question for both of you, and I'll get to my final question, is just being in this environment after having an exit. I know you like real estate for part of where your energy is going. Any 2 to 3 upcoming midterm trends that you're just tracking real closely and you're not sure about your play in that area yet, but is a little sub-niche that you're excited about and keeping an eye on?
So it's been set up here a number of times today to be the lender. And we've been lending money in the Arizona area for the last year and a half, and we're raising the fund around that right now to get more money out on the streets, because at the end of the day, people got into in my space, they got into the multifamily, they got into some of the triple net, and some of the cap rates have compressed, distributions have gone down. So now they're looking for cash flow. I actually did a talk about it a year ago at another event. Instead of who moved my cheese, it's who moved my capital, and where did the capital go? The capital went to cash flowing assets. So me being a cash guy raising capital, I had to figure out how to get my investors into cash flowing assets.
Got it. Okay. And then for each of you, maybe starting with Samantha, what's a big insight we could leave the audience with today? That'd be really powerful for investors to hear, or somebody on the founder capital raising side?
Well, I think when it comes down to an exit, it goes back to knowing your outcome. So a lot of people ask, like, did we sell to a PE firm? No, we sold within the industry because I wanted to be done. And so getting out was the goal. And so keeping your eye on that, people will try to move you off your marker. The last part was make sure you get paid. So there are a lot of people that you'll sell your company, or you're supposed to stay on as a consultant, and then they fire you, or you don't get the next payment. So work it out so that you're getting paid.
Right. The last comment's so important because nowadays with PE agreements being so complex, someone might say, oh, well, we'll give you 11x, not 7x EBITDA, but half of that return is in stock in this third-party company that you may be held hostage to when they get recapped, or it may never happen. And it wasn't really 11x. You actually would have been much better off selling to someone in the industry and then planting those seeds really early, like you said. If you're an investor, you should be planting seeds with CEOs like Samantha and Michael were 5-10 years before they want to exit, so they're comfortable with you as the buyer, and they come to you first because you're a strategic buyer, and then they'll trust your expertise, and you'll get a deal at a better valuation because they trust you, not the private equity firm with an army of lawyers and a 300-page legal agreement, my experience. Michael, any last insights from you?
Understand what the person sitting across from the table from you actually needs. Like, you could actually sell an investment for tax purposes. You can sell an investment for cash flow. You can sell an investment for upside equity. But if you don't understand what the person on the other side of the table needs from you, they're not actually going to listen to what you have to say. And that goes back to like last night. Everybody's got a great deal. Everybody's trying to get somebody's money. And I'm not even looking for a deal. But clearly, I had that look, the sign on my forehead, pitch me your deal. And that's not what was going on. It'd be much nicer to get to know you, figure out who you are, what you're looking for, and then we can have another conversation later, because then you know what I want, and I know what you want, and maybe we each have something each other needs.
Right. Figure out exactly what the other person wants. I know that Sam Zell had a famous story in his book called Am I Being Too Subtle, where he was trying to buy a whole block of real estate, and one lady was holding out as an 85-year-old who would not sell her house. Nobody could get it done, and Sam Zell said, I'm going to go there on my Harley, get it done myself. He went there, knocked on the door, had a cup of tea, and the lady said, well, my dog is buried in the backyard. That's why I won't sell. So they exhumed the dog, bought her a new house, moved the dog, buried it in the new backyard, and got the deal done just by listening, getting to know her, and having a cup of tea versus just making offers that were higher and higher. So it's related to that comment. Yeah, awesome. Well, if anyone wants to connect with Michael and Samantha, I think you're going to be here the rest of the evening and during the cocktail hours. After this, we're rolling forward with some more content. So Charlie's going to welcome up the next speaker, but let's give him a round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you.